everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and in this video we are going to pick it up exactly where we left it off in part number 1 of our playthrough of Dawnshade. If you have not checked out the solo setup video as well as the overview and part 1, all of that, along with the components overview, which I did, is all going to be housed in one playlist. I'll link to that in the top right-hand corner, so you can go check those videos out to get a better understanding of where we're currently at. There's a number of things I want to make mention of for clarification purposes, so let's start with the first of 3. You'll notice on the level chip for tracking your current party level that there are green nodes around that level chip. There is one at 3, there's one at 6, and there's one at 9. And what that represents is once I hit level 3, which I haven't yet, but I'm very, very close to doing, and when I do, that is going to allow me to uptick my agility, which is one of the stats on my character board, up to 4. I'm currently set at 3, and that's going to allow me the ability to roll up to 4 dice. This is the only way to actually increase agility in the game. You cannot use training points in order to bump up your agility. The second thing I'd like to point out, and again, none of these had any gameplay impacts in part number 1, but they're worth mentioning here for clarification. During the movement phase of your turn, you can return to any previously revealed outpost. We haven't seen any of the outposts pop up just yet. Or your starting village. We certainly know where that is. It's just to the north of us. Or you can reveal a new quest tile. You cannot return to the Watcher's Tower because the idea behind that is if you were able to, you would be able to essentially boost yourself in XP way too often and become way too powerful. So that is capped at a once per visit. So really the strategy behind finding or running into that Watcher's Tower, which again you won't know until you actually rip through the tile deck or the quest deck, is that you just want to ensure that you are not strongly aligned or aligned in an element that you already have a positive condition for, because you know the Watcher's Tower is going to focus on whichever element that you're most strongly aligned with and give you a positive benefit. And as you saw in part number 1 for me, that resulted in nothing because I was already sitting with the focus condition which came from the sun element. So again, there was no gameplay impact there, but it is worth noting that because you can use that strategy to your advantage to come out of a situation where you find the Watcher's Tower with a positive condition you don't already have. This third and final FYI certainly has no gameplay impact, but it will certainly come into play strategy-wise as I move through this next video, and it's perfect because we're literally going to have to make this decision right now, and that's all about the movement phase. Now in part number 1, when I made my movement in terms of deciding whether I want to go back to the starting village or a revealed outpost, of which we have none currently, or to reveal a new quest tile, what I was doing when I was choosing to reveal a new quest tile is I was moving my kinship marker to the location I wanted to go and then putting the actual quest tile on that location. The one thing to note, if you're not trying to beeline it to a particular location like I am, trying to get to these Watcher's Blessings, when you reveal a quest tile, that you choose to do that during the movement phase, the first thing you do is actually reveal the quest tile, and then you can actually determine if you want to place it in any location around the map as long as it's connected to a revealed path. So you have lots of options in front of you, and if you happen to put it on the other side of the board, you can do that. The one constraint or the one cost that you're going to run into is that if I place it, for instance, way over here connected to the village, when I move my kinship, which I have to do to that location, I'm paying threat for all that movement. So if you're not planning to do that, or at least have to pay that much of a threat cost, you're going to want to keep it close by. For me right now, my purposes, I'm gunning for these 2 Watcher's Blessings as I'm very close to them, but after that, I could see myself wanting to move to the opposite end of the board. So now we can go right ahead with the gameplay, and it literally starts a brand new turn right now where we left off in the last video, and I get to choose exactly what I just stated. Do we want to move to the starting village, to a revealed outpost, which we don't have, or reveal a new quest tile? So I can go to the village, which is 2 away. As you can see, I have to go around the cliff edge here to get back to the village. There is 2 training points there, so at the guild hall, I could certainly try to train up, or I could do something else at the village if I saw fit. But I really want to get those Watcher's Blessings while I'm all the way over here already, especially being that I'm only 1 threat away or 1 movement away, because every movement costs a threat to grabbing one of those. So let's go ahead and reveal a tile the way that I specified just moments ago, and then we'll decide where we want to put it. So the tile right off the top here is an outpost. Look at that. So we got an option for an outpost. Now this is a foundry, outpost. We'll have to talk about what that is going to entail. But now I need to decide where on this map I want to place it. And as I mentioned before, I'm pretty much gunning for one of these two locations. It's just a matter of which one. Honestly, I'm liking the idea of placing it right here. So I'm going to go ahead and place it in this slot. We're going to move the kinship marker over one. Remember, we're going to have to pay one threat. I'll do that in a second. But first, let's reveal this Watcher Blessing. We've got ourselves a wild. This is awesome. For those curious what the wild token represents, you can change one die to any face. This is huge. So I've gone ahead and added the wild token up there along with the shield. So we have two Watcher Blessings sitting up there right now. Our threat is going to need to be bumped up. We're going to bump ourselves from 4 up to 5. So now that we found ourselves at a foundry, an outpost, when visiting a foundry, starting with the active player, and of course I'm playing solo, so I'm always the active player, then moving clockwise, again that doesn't matter so much, each member of the kinship may take a turn doing any of the following activities. We can transmute Tawny, we could purchase Cogbot fighters, or purchase a cog behemoth. So let's quickly talk about transmuting Tawny. If we decided to go ahead with that one, we can transmute Tawny into Vaki at the cost of 3 Tawny for every Vaki. Has to be tier 1 though. And it's done by discarding 3 Tawny, of course, from your pool and drawing 1 tier 1 Vaki from the available Vaki pool on the Vaki mat. So there has to be an availability of that tier 1 element you want to go after in order to actually pay to get it. But this is a way for you to start using all of that money that you've accumulated in order to bring some Vaki from the Vaki mat over to your player mat. And again, once you have it there, you have options. Moving on to the second option that you have at the foundry, and that is Cogbot fighters. You can purchase one of these Cogbot fighters for 10 Tawny. Ironically, I only have 9, so I can't even do this, but I am going to tell you, even though I'm super close to being able to afford one of these, what benefits this can give you. So by picking up a Cogbot fighter, you're placing it between your first and second HP chip under your character chip, of course. It's in your battle stack. It represents a fighter that gives you your owner certain perks that are listed on the back of these chips. So I'll go ahead and just flip these over so you can actually see the types of perks that you can get from these examples here in front of you, at least inside the prototype, and it also acts as a shield to you in battle by absorbing all damage when it is destroyed, meaning if the HP chips under the Cogbot fighter are eliminated, then the Cogbot fighter is KO'd and removed from battle, but any excess damage will be absorbed by that Cogbot fighter, leaving your character with 1 HP regardless of how much damage you took. So it's a very, very nice buff. And these fighters are going to stay with you throughout the entire campaign as long as they have not been destroyed. The next option you have is to purchase a cog behemoth at the cost of 30 Tawny. So this is extremely expensive and is obviously eliminated from the options at the beginning of the game because this is more of a powerhouse option that you'll be going after later on, or at least if you're able to save up. These machines allow the entire kinship to jump into and pilot a giant Vaki powered battle cogbot. So this is obviously going to help you out in a number of battle type situations. I won't get into the details here of this one. You won't see it during this playthrough because again, I'm just not going to gain 30 at this point in time, but it's really cool to still see that this is an option. I'll flip these over so you can actually see the opposite side of each of these different chips. You'll see that there is a head chip. There's also 2 arms, left and right, and then the 2 legs, of course, left and right. Now, I'm really debating here because I have the option to go ahead and transmute some of my Tawny here and grab some Vaki. It really depends on how much I want to go after. There is no limit because as long as I'm spending 3 Tawny for each Vaki and it's at a tier 1 level, I can do as many as I want. So I really could go a little bit crazy here, and I could actually right now pick up 3. And if I did that, I'd be burning all of my Tawny, but I could literally get enough of the Vaki in order to power my ability, which is pretty awesome. And that's extremely tempting, to be honest. But the downside is I would have absolutely no money whatsoever. And I do know that the gameplay elements, at least within Dawnshade, some of it requires some money to be had in hand to play some games. So to make money, you have to spend money in some cases here. Actually, in most cases, especially with the dexterity games and things like that. Plus, there could be item shops out there or things like that you run into. And of course, if you have no money, well, it's a useless trip. So that's really what I'm struggling with here, is kind of going all out or maybe just grabbing 1 or 2. Kind of leaning more towards just grabbing a single one. Maybe we'll work our way slowly towards powering the ability and maybe not make it the major focus. So what I'll do is I'm going to spend 3 And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to transmute those into one of the tier 1 mountain elements here, and I'll place that on my player board. So we've got one of the 3 that we need to get this ability going for Dawnstrike. But also don't forget, very much like I mentioned in part number 1, if I choose not to use it for the ability, in other words, I choose not to save up to actually use this particular Vaki to pay for this ability, I can just go ahead and spend this at any time to place it back here. And of course, that's going to uptick this tracker to the next position. That would have 2 of them at the highest priority level, which means I wouldn't be aligned anymore with any of them. And I'd actually at that point be considered unaligned, which could have some, well, I don't know if it's negative, but it might not be the best situations for me. The positive there is that I would get a positive condition mended placed on top of my character. But as of right now, I don't need that positive condition. So I'm going to hold off on spending that. And again, I can do that spending of the Vaki at any time. Now, just so you're aware, as you can see here, this is considered an outpost. This is the Foundry outpost, as I've talked about. But there are other types of outposts you can run into in the game. And they're mentioned in the rulebook. You can find things like the Guild Hall, Tavern, Mercantile, Foundry, Boomshot Gallery. There's a number of different things you can run into, and they'll all allow you to do different things. Remember though, that outpost is one of the areas that you can actually move to along with the starting village or revealing a new quest tile when you go through a movement phase. So it definitely gives you a point of reference in terms of something you could return to with movement later on in the future. Again, remembering that when you reveal a quest tile, you can strategically place them maybe next to an outpost or somewhere close by to something you can jump to later in the future more quickly. So all those types of thoughts will be going through your head as you're playing the game. Now that we've completed the activity associated with the outpost that we wanted to do, the kinship now earns 2 XP during the earn rewards phase. So we're going to go ahead to the XP marker here. It's at 2, and we're going to bump ourselves up to 4. Let's continue on with the next turn. Now, obviously, I want to go after that last blessing, that last Watcher's Blessing in the bottom corner. But again, I'm going to reveal the tile first. And one thing I want to mention is the fact I do have this card right here, the Lesser Vaki Portal. I didn't use it at the beginning of this video. There were some of you that might remember I picked this up from the last one. It allows me to move 1 space without increasing my threat. I can certainly sell it too if I ever happen to get to a space where I could sell it, but I can't buy it because I gained it for free in the last video. I didn't use this back then in that very first turn of this video, but now I think I am going to actually use this just to knock down the threat. Well, I just don't want the threat going up that quickly anyway. Plus, it just clears out my inventory because it's a one-time use. I might as well make use of the benefit as soon as I can. This isn't something to hold for a battle or something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and, again, first off, I'm going to go to the quest tile. I have a bad habit of wanting to move the kinship right away. What do we got? Oh my gosh, look at that. We got the outposts, we got the mercantile. So this is going to actually allow us to pick up some items. So that worked out perfect. So I'm glad I didn't actually burn all my money away. So now again, I have to choose where I actually want to place this. And again, I really do want this blessing. So I am happy to place it here. In terms of paths, I just want to make sure that I can, oh, this is even better. Oh, that's fantastic. So I can connect both of those paths so I can actually kind of come right back around. But the downside is you can see right here by doing that, I'm no longer able to go down this way. Now, there might not be any reason for me to go down there. I don't think there is. I'll probably be heading back the opposite way, so maybe I won't worry about it too much. Pretty happy to just kind of cut it off right there. We're going to go ahead and move the kinship to this space. I am going to use the portal in order to do so, so I will not be increasing my threat whatsoever. That is free to do. No cost of threat, thank goodness. Revealing this, what do I get? A wild. Nice. Another one of these. I can use these at any time to help me with dice rolls. That will certainly come in handy in the future. So what can we do at the mercantile? Well, when we're visiting this, the kinship may shop for the latest and greatest of Dawnshade's wares to aid you in your quest. First, we're going to draw item cards from the top of the item deck. Cards are separated into tier 1, 2, and 3 as we saw earlier in the setup video. And I'm going to go ahead and grab 8 of these cards, place them face up. We'll place them on the battle mat, and then we're able to go ahead and purchase them. Time to find out what wares are available to us. So here is what the merchant has to offer us. And when we are here, now if we're playing with multiple players, we'd be moving around the table from the active player, and that player can choose to sell one item or buy one item. And then it goes around in turn order. However, when you're playing solo, especially when you're controlling one character like I am, I just basically can go until I can go no more, selling and buying as I please. I have nothing to sell because I literally just used my portal, which probably I wish I had held on to now, because I could have actually exchanged it in. Again, these are the types of things you'll think about later on. There's some great stuff here, but I did still leave 6 coins on me, and luckily, looking across these items, 2 of them are worth 6, so I could purchase the most expensive item here, which is nice. Doesn't mean necessarily it's something I need, so it really comes down to what do I actually need that will help me. Another thing to make mention of is right now I currently can only hold 1 item as per my stat on my character board. So no matter how much I would like to buy or split up my 6 tawny to purchase multiple items, I can only take and carry 1 right now. So that does kind of cap me and might lead me towards that 6 cost item, but let's take a look at these individually. So let's talk about our options here at the merchant. We have the boundless knapsack plus 2 items, but cannot exceed max items. That's good to know. However, I'm not really gunning at this point to necessarily get that boundless knapsack, but honestly, if I was playing this in a longer campaign setting, of which you can play through this in 3 chapters to go through the whole thing, that could actually be a really, really nice item to have. But during this Kickstarter preview video, I'm going to look for something that's going to benefit me for what I know is coming, which is an upcoming battle I'm going to have to deal with. So we're going to go here with the next one, take a look at it. Thorngrease. This one says +1 SLD. SLD stands for shields, and basically this allows you to have 1 shield underneath of your character chip at the beginning of every battle. It's just always going to be there because you're wearing this armor. It says full set will give you 3, which is awesome. Again, 3 is the most you can have actually on your character. And then it says when hit, roll 1 attack die to attacker. Items cost -1 tawny as well. That's nice. And it's considered, just like the other one, a tier 1 permanent item. Now this one over here is a lesser healing elixir. This is the first consumable that we've seen, except we've seen 1 consumable, I guess, in the form of that portal, which was the Vaki portal. And actually, my mistake, that was actually considered an instant. So you just use it instantly, get rid of it. This is a consumable. It says restore +3 HP to self or an ally, cannot exceed HP stat. That could be really huge in a battle. It's also not as expensive, so that's nice. The lesser nimble potion is a +1 to agility to self. So again, bumping up how many dice you can roll. Oh, that's really nice too. These are tempting. They're all really good. Lesser Watcher's Miracle, restore 3 HP or revive self or ally with 1 HP left. Wow, so that can bring you back when you've been taken down to basically hold on for dear life and try to make one last ditch effort. And that one's worth 5 if we want to pick it up. Hidden Stash, purchase any item from the item deck and then reshuffle. That's pretty wild. So basically you need to not only be able to buy this, you use it instantly, and then you'd be going through that particular item deck and hoping you have enough money to buy something that, you know, is really going to benefit you. So that could be a good one if we don't like anything we're seeing here. Vaki Infuser, add 1 explode die to the ability roll. Does not cost any agility to do so. It's a consumable. The explode die, if I'm not mistaken, and I haven't used it yet, is this die right here. So that's pretty cool. That would certainly add some spice to a battle. Next one, we have the Lesser Watcher's Scroll. It says roll any tier 1 ability and ignore the Vaki cost. So remember that cost I was talking about on my tier 1 ability, this one right here? I would not even have to pay this cost if I use that scroll. That scroll is also a consumable. So we certainly have some great options here. I mean, at the end of the day, I really struggled to pick the one that I thought was best, and that Hidden Stash is super tempting to pay 2 for that and then go digging through the tier 1 deck with 4 tawny left to try to buy something. But honestly, when I have a 6 that's sitting me right in the face here at the merchant, and it looks like it would instantly help me out, not only on defense, which would be huge because I'd be able to have a defensive chip right out of the gate, which is nice, but also these things can actually hurt an attacker. You can roll 1 attack die to the attacker when hit. So it's basically giving you not only some defense, but some offense as well. I really like that. So I think I'm going to go ahead and burn all of my tawny. Yes, I am burning it all. I really hope I don't regret this. As we go forward, we'll see how the rest pans out, but I think this is really going to help me when a battle comes around. And again, I can only carry 1 item, so this is going to fill me right up. There's nothing else I could do. I guess ironically, the only thing I could do is sell it for 3, but why would I do that? And that is going to do it for the merchant. So with another outpost completed, at the very end when we're earning rewards, we gain 2 XP. So we're going to bump ourselves from 4 up to 6 as we get closer and closer to the next training point. Honestly, once I get to that next training point, I think it's really going to push me to want to go back. And I'm honestly almost in that headspace right now. So what to do? We certainly have options here. But one thing I want to make mention of is how many different tiles I have left here. So I've only got, until we get to the major threat, which will be forced upon us if we get there, I've only got 4 more tiles. So the chances of me hitting a battle here are actually pretty high now. Like, I've gone through a number of tiles and I haven't hit it yet, but I'm in kind of a situation where every single time I take one of these quest tiles off the top, I am risking a battle, which isn't bad, but I'm literally leaving training points at the village. So that's my biggest struggle right now, is going, how much more do I want to gamble with the idea that I'm going to get pushed into a battle and not have the advantage of having those training points? That could really hurt. I mean, again, I might be able to survive based on everything I've obtained, but it'd be nice to kind of stat up even further. So I'm really tempted to jump back to the village, I think, this turn and get the training points, even though, I mean, we're still 4 away from the 3rd training point, but that's just too much to wait for at this point, I think. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to choose during the movement phase of this new turn to actually head back to the village. The only thing that's a little brutal with this is it's going to cost us a lot of threat. We are going to jump up pretty substantially. We're going to be jumping up 1, then 2, and then 3 to get all the way back here. All right, so the threat meter is going to go from 5 all the way up to 8. That's pretty aggressive. So the village, as you can see right there, states right on it, the starting village says all outposts, which means I can choose any different type of outpost for whatever it is I'd like to do. I can go to the guild hall to use the training points that I have available to me, which was the whole reason I went back there. I can go to a tavern there at the starting village. The tavern says, when visiting a tavern, the kinship may gamble your hard-earned tawny in a game of doubler's dice or watcher's ruins. Sounds like a lot of fun, but I burnt all of my money on those really nice thorn greaves, so I won't be doing that this time around. The other options for outposts, we've actually seen a couple of them down below. We saw the foundry and we saw the mercantile. There's also what's called a boom shot gallery, and when visiting a boom shot gallery, the kinship may test their skills by launching cogbots into targets, and you basically are going to have a very interesting dexterity game going on. You'll remember the 3 cogbot chips that I set up near my character mat. I'll show you them right now so you can see them. These ones right here. These are your character's cogbots, the ones that you already have, and you'll be using those during games like, or when you're actually playing something like the Boom Shot Gallery. But in this moment, we don't have time for games. We need to train up. We're going to the guild hall in the starting village in order to spend our training points. So let's go ahead and find out what we want to bump up on Ash. I truly would have loved to have hit that 3rd level to get that bump up in agility. That would have been huge to bump us from 3 to 4 for rolling dice in the future. That definitely would have helped us. But instead, we're going to have to focus on choosing to put our stats into either the devotion, attack, items, defense, or we can go ahead and go after another tier 1 ability, but we're already working on the one we have, so probably won't be focusing on that. We also have already unlocked 1 die that goes along with that. So I'm thinking I'm going to focus on the stats for Ash instead. So the question really becomes, what has a higher priority? Right now, items, not so much because I have no tawny to spend. So there's no point in going that route. Attack and defense sound like really good options. HP could be a massively good option as well. This is tough. So again, I got to think about how I'm going to spread out my dice rolls. So right now I'm rolling 1 defense at max. When I use my 3 agility, so every time I roll during a battle, which we haven't seen yet, I'm going to be able to break up that agility between these different pools of dice. I have this special die right here for my character. I also have the ability to roll up to 1 defense die, the ability to roll up to 2 attack dice. So already I can go ahead and use my full attack and my full defense together, and that would be my max agility, and I've got a perfect roll, so I'm not wasting anything there. So I'm almost tempted, because if my agility is going to be capped at 3, to bump up my HP to make me stronger to handle more damage. Now that might be overkill in terms of how much health I have, but I don't know if you can actually have overkill in the health department. It sounds like a good idea to me. The only other thing I could see being a benefit is if I went ahead and I actually bumped up maybe 1 HP and 1 on the attack. So if I really want to have a really heavy attack at some point, I can roll 3 attack dice. Maybe I'll do that. So I'm going to split it up. We're going to go and bump our HP up by 1, so we'll be up to 5. That sounds pretty good to me. So we'll take a health chip, we'll drop it underneath of our battle stack, which is pretty awesome. Another thing I'm going to do is, because we're wearing this thorn greaves right here and it's already on us, we're already prepping our battle stack all the time. So we're going to go ahead and grab a defense chip as well. It's going to go like this. And actually, my mistake, this defense chip is going to sit on the bottom of the stack. So it will sit like this. There we go. Because it's the first thing that gets removed off the bottom. So there we go, we're all set up. And then the other thing I want to do with the second training point is going to tick up my attack stats. And now I could potentially be rolling 3 attack dice in a single roll. Sounds pretty deadly to me. So those 2 training points that were in my pool have now been completely spent. And very much like the multiple outposts we've already visited recently, at the earn rewards section of the turn, we gain 2 XP. So we're going to go up to 8. We're currently not at 10 just yet, but wow, are we ever close. But remember, as soon as we tick up to 10, we automatically get that boost in agility, which would be huge if we can pull this off. Heading into the next turn here, and I really want to go after those Watcher's Blessings. The one thing I want to make mention of, just to ensure there's no confusion, is we have a final threat that is going to trigger at the end once we get through this tile stack here. You can see it kind of poking out at the bottom there. It's okay to see it because we know that was there from the beginning of the game. What I don't know is where the battle tile is, and that's going to be the fun part. As soon as I step out right now, if I chose to go to an outpost and do something, that's fine, but most outposts, for the most part, well, that's the question. I guess most of them require you to spend threat. Actually, you know what? It might make a lot of sense now to actually head back to an outpost knowing full well it's going to give me 2 XP. There's no reason to risk going out into the wild and then potentially running into a battle. Now, if I was to say, for instance, oh, but it would cost me a lot to get... So this is the one I'd probably want to go to because it's closest to a Watcher's Blessing. Plus, if I go to this outpost and I end there, the earn rewards would give me 2 XP guaranteed, which is enough to bump me to 10, which is enough to automatically bump my agility up and have me ready to roll 4 dice going into whatever pain and suffering is coming my way in the future. Downside is, if I do that, my kinship is moving 1, 2, 3, and is burning 3 threat just to make that happen, ticking me up from 8 to 11. Now that sounds really bad, but on normal difficulty, the final threat or major threat's not going to trigger until we hit 16, so it actually may not be that bad, but what we might be giving up is the ability to get both of those Watcher's Blessings. But you know what? I still want to do it because it just guarantees that I'm able to get that agility before I risk things. So the question really becomes, if I'm going to gun to go back to the foundry, can I do anything there besides just gain the 2 XP? And no, there is nothing I can do there. And again, therein lies the problem. I'd essentially be not only burning threat to get there, but because I burnt all my tawny by spending it all on those thorn greaves, I wouldn't even be able to purchase anything. I couldn't afford to transmute any tawny I don't have. I couldn't buy any cogbot fighters, and I certainly can't afford the cog behemoth. So literally, I'd just be doing it to guarantee the extra agility. But you know what? As insane as this sounds, it might be worth it strategically. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. So let's go ahead and move the kinship. This is actually quite ridiculous, but I'm going to give it a shot. So 1, 2, and 3 back to here. So my threat is going to jump. So my threat at 8 is now going to flip over to the opposite side and be at 11. So we're choosing not to go ahead and buy anything as we have no tawny, but we do gain 2 XP for visiting an outpost. So I'm going to go ahead now, bump myself up to 0. And again, that's going to reset. And really, this bumps up to 10, but resets back down to 0. And then we're going to have this tick up to level 3, which is the green 3. And that is going to have us jump up in agility. This is all part of my master plan to become even more ready for the first battle that we know is eventually showing up here. So now we're up to 4. I'm going to be able to roll all 3 of my attack dice and my defense die. That's huge. All right, now with that interesting strategy in there, we're going to go ahead and do some gambling, see whether this paid off. We're not really doing much gambling, but we're going to see whether or not the actual battle was coming very soon or not in 2 seconds, because I am going to move towards this Watcher's Blessing over here. The question is, which path do I want to go down? But again, I can reveal the tile first before deciding, and that's what I should do. Oh, it is a battle. No way. That's awesome. Okay, so Well, I could not be any more prepared for that then, so that's perfect. Shoot. I can't connect it back. Oh, that'd be so nice to be able to connect the battle here through to the village. That would have been a nice circle around. Oh, that would have been so nice. But there's no pathway out of the village over here. Ah, that's frustrating. Okay, so if that's the case, then how do I make this work the best? That's kind of a waste. Yeah, there's nothing I can really do about that. Yeah, either way, I'm kind of burning an option here. So I guess this is the best it gets. So I'm going to go ahead and place this tile right here. We'll move the kinship to here. The threat is also going to jump up to 12, and now we're going to resolve this battle. So now we need to determine what level we are currently at. And if you just remembered, I bumped ourselves up to 3. And because of that, when you go into a battle, your battles are pulled directly in correlation to what level you're at. So even though, yes, I was able to gain the additional agility, which sounds like I was able to kind of sneakily do this, the game basically scales on the level that you're currently on in terms of what battle you'll be facing. So we're going to be doing a level 3 battle, meaning it will be much more difficult than what a level 2 battle would have been. So let's go ahead and find out about what type of battle we've gotten ourselves into. The Slot Canyon Battle. The path ahead leads to a canyon with 2 sheer cliffs on either side of the entrance. The kinship is thankful for the respite from Dawnshade's 2 sons. The space is tight enough that Poltum can hold his staff horizontally and touch both walls at the same time. After a fair amount of walking, a pebble drops down on top of Poltum's head. He looks up and sees the startling sight of a group of Alouetta climbing down, utilizing their forearms and legs to traverse the Slot Canyon at alarming speeds, and they're not alone. We have 3 options here before us, 3 different paths, and we have to choose one of them. We can run forward, we can run backwards, or we can stand our ground. And honestly, the way we've set ourselves up for this battle, I just want to stand our ground. I don't think running is necessarily going to do anything. These things have arms and legs coming out of everywhere. So let's just stand still and see if there's any advantage in that. The Alouettas and their reinforcements descend so quickly there is no time to react. The kinship surrounds Kimber, who reaches into her tunic, pulls out a glowing vial of Vaki essence and opens it. A bewildered look crawls across your brow as you hear her begin to sing a hauntingly beautiful melody. Your bewilderment turns to outright confusion as the song begins to reverberate through the canyon walls with such force the rocks begin to crumble and lose themselves, falling toward you in a rocky avalanche. Roll the Dawnshade dice. Now, based on my prior rolls of the Dawnshade dice, I've been doing pretty good with these, so let's hope we can keep up that luck as we go with this roll. Oh yes, we got it again. I have not failed that roll yet. If we succeed on the roll of the Dawnshade dice, the kinship seems to be protected by some unknown force as the rocks fall upon your foes, but miss you altogether. Prepare for battle. Alouetta Skinners enter battle with -1 shields. So basically, they're going to come in with 1 less shield than they would have normally. That's a nice advantage to have. Now, the book states based on the number of individuals as part of the kinship, in my case, there's 1. We're going to have 1 Alouetta Skinner and 1 Cogbot Bugger. Now, if we had 2, 3, 4, and 5, things start to ramp up in terms of the numbers of these enemies against us. So right now we're dealing with 2. The first one is Alouetta right here. This one, it's a Skinner. So this is the chip we're going to use. On the very back of this chip, it talks about special abilities and ultimate abilities, all that good stuff, plus the HP and shields it comes in with, as well as its attack and defense that's going to roll against us. So first off, let's put our HP in place and then our shields. This one is a 5 with 2 shields, but remember, thanks to those rocks coming down, this thing is going to be 1 less on the shields. So not coming in with 2 shields, just a single shield. I like that a lot. Now, being that this was the first one mentioned inside the logbook, and when it states Kinship 1, the very first enemy that's mentioned goes in the first position on the enemy side of the battle mat, so it'll go right here like so. The second one is a Cogbot Bugger. We're going to flip this thing over to the opposite side. It says HP 1, Shields 2. Now, this is the only one that actually suffers from the loss of a shield due to our roll or successful roll of the Dawnshade dice. This one comes in with its 2 shields. It has Repair. The ultimate is Shield Stealer, and it does 0 on the attack in terms of how many attack dice. Full 1, Defense 5. We'll talk about those in a second. First off, let's go ahead and get the HP in place. So 1 and 2 shields. So we'll go ahead and grab 2 shields, stack them like so on the bottom, 1 on top for the health. And this is going to go into the second position on this battle mat. Now, you guys are already aware we created our battle stack as we went along, which is how you're supposed to play the game so you're ready to jump into a battle immediately. So we already have our shield set up thanks to our Thorin Greaves on the bottom. We have all the HP we should have, which is 5 HP based on our stat, plus some condition tokens on top to give us some nice buffs. We can place ourselves on any one of these 5 active character location slots right here. Doesn't matter which one. I'll place myself right in the middle here. Positionally, there's no difference. It's really just going to come down to how things shake down inside the Dawnshade bag in terms of who activates first inside a battle and who activates last. Now, when playing solo, you're going to be pulling 2 chips from this Dawnshade bag, which we're going to prepare in a second. They're going to sit on the initiative side of the battle mat, and we're going to go through those chips, which will then move to the initiative discard side, and we'll continue through the bag until it's empty and then replenish if necessary. Now we're going to go ahead and set up the Dawnshade bag now that we know we're going up against 2 foes. And inside of the solo mode, there is some things to be aware of when setting this bag up that are very important. So first off, we already set this thing up for 1 character going up against 2 foes. When you're actually setting up your Dawnshade bag, you're always going to place all 5 of the ally chips inside the bag. So that's the first thing you're going to do, is put those in the bag. Doesn't matter if you're playing against a single foe, like a one-on-one situation, or 2 or more foes against you. All those ally chips are going inside that bag. Where that changes, going up against a number of foes, is when it relates to the initiative stack here. So the initiative stack, only 5 will actually go into the bag if you're only going up against 1 foe. So if I'm going up against a one-on-one situation like this, only these 5 go in. Again, you'll see it's a complete 50-50 split because we've got 5 ally chips in the bag and 5 of these. Every single one of these is going to relate to activating that particular foe. So we know those are going in. But we do know with this particular battle, we do have a second foe. Second, basically if it's 2 or more foes, these other 2 have to go in the bag. In terms of how these activate once they actually get pulled out of the bag, we'll talk about those in a second, but you add these now into the Dawnshade bag, give them a good shuffle and give them some good movement inside the bag because you don't want any of them sticking together. Then you're going to go ahead in solo mode, you're going to pull out 1 chip to put it in the initiative slot first. So we've got the enemies going second. I can only hope that I go first. Yeah, I actually got it, so I get to go first. So basically, we set up, a round of battle is pulling 2 chips at a time, placing them in the initiative slot. First one goes on the bottom, second one goes on top, and you start with the one on top. So as you can see right here, I'm going to be going first, thank goodness. Once we actually go, so for instance, this one is going to allow me to activate my unit, which is sitting in one of the green spaces here. I'll go ahead and do my thing. And then this one is going to activate. You'll notice that this one doesn't tie to any slot that has anyone right now. It's up here. It's number 6. There is nobody there. So what does it do? Well, it still activates an enemy. It always relates back to position number 1. So that's going to be the biggest, most nasty individual out there. If that individual is taken out of the equation and you happen to have this chip come up, it just moves to the next one in position. Simple as that. The other thing to be aware of is as you play in solo mode, instead of discarding things from the initiative, so say for instance I go ahead at the beginning of my first round of battle, I activate my character, do my thing, now we're going to initiate this one, which is again going to trigger this individual, put it over here. Instead of discarding chips from this area, what's going to happen in solo mode is I'm going to go back into the bag and grab 2 more and put them here. And I'm going to go through this entire bag, putting chips over to this discard pile 2 every single round until the entire bag is depleted. And then if I still need to be grabbing chips at that time, then I just replenish the entire bag again. Something also worth noting is there's a round tracker at the very top here, and you can see it's going to track down the number of rounds to the very end of the battle. When it gets to the second last position, you'll see here it says ultimate. That is really bad. When it gets that close to the end, the enemies are going to trigger their ultimate ability, which is certainly going to throw some fun into the equation. You're going to want to try to deal with them before that happens. So how does a battle actually end? Well, there's 2 different major things that can happen. You can have a victory or you can have a defeat, and this is pretty standard for most battles. However, there's different ways you can be victorious and different ways you can be defeated. You can have a victory where you actually KO every single foe on the battlefield. That's what you're aiming to do. If you can do that, by the end of the battle, you gain 14 XP. And of course, you're going to need to try to do this before the round tracker runs out. The other way to win is involving that round tracker running out. However, at the end of that, the allies have more collective HP and shield tokens in their battle stacks than the foes do. If it's a tie, though, the allies are considered to have retreated. So that's not good, and it ends up becoming a defeat condition. But talking about, let's say hypothetically that the allies have the most shield and HP chips on their battle stacks, then they would gain 10 XP during the earn rewards. So not as good as KOing everything, but still pretty good. Now let's talk about the defeat conditions, even though we never want to have that happen, but we just talked about one, and that's where the round tracker runs out and we have the exact same HP and shields collectively in our battle stacks as the enemy. We are considered to be retreating as allies, and that means we are defeated. We still gain 7 XP, but it's not as good as actually KOing them all or forcing the foes to retreat. So that's one way that that ally retreat can trigger. The other way is, of course, just straight up the actual foes have more HP and shields in general than we do. So not only could it be a tie, but if they have more, of course, they're going to force us to retreat if the round tracker runs out. And of course, the worst possible situation is all of our allies are KO'd. So in my case, playing solo with one character, just my one character happens to be KO'd. By the end of the battle, I only gain 4 XP, which is actually really low, and I really hope that doesn't happen in this example. All right, let's talk about some of the special abilities and ultimate abilities on these foes, as I really don't want them to happen, but you should probably know what is going to happen if they trigger. So if we happen to have an attack from this unit right here, the special is Dragline Repel, and that's only going to trigger if they happen to roll a side in the die like this that has that asterisk, which relates back to that Dragline Repel. And inside the logbook, it specifies exactly what that will do. It says the Skinner produces a web-like substance to climb down, dropping onto the target with a well-positioned surprise attack, and the target will suffer blind. So this condition, which is actually the reverse, it's not so good. It's the negative side of the token that I have here, but it basically states no specials, target equals flip chip. So the first part of that negative condition is pretty self-explanatory. No specials, meaning that my character wouldn't be able to perform its special even if I land the asterisk on an attack die. That's not good. But the second part of this also has to do with my ability to target. Because I'm blind, I can't just pick the target I want to attack. I have to actually flip my character chip into the battle mat while keeping that flick that's going to occur outside the battle mat. So I have to do it from distance, and whichever of the foes I'm closest to when my chip lands is the one that I actually target. So you can see that you might have a plan to go after one, but that might go sideways pretty quick. The ultimate ability, which is sitting on this chip, which again is going to trigger once we get down to that ultimate slot on the round tracker, is called Stabbing Rain. Does not sound good whatsoever. And again, referencing the logbook for this particular battle, it states Stabbing Rain, the Skinner throws a rain of poison lace knives, causing slowed to target and all adjacent allies. This one's pretty straightforward. Basically, it's going to reduce my agility, which is not good, knocking down the number of dice I can use. Now over here, the special ability for this one right here, the Cogbot Bugger, is a repair. And what does repair do? Well, the bugger will activate a small welder and begins repairing itself and gain an HP. So that's kind of an annoyance. So that's something that's going to be kind of a grief for us. The other thing down below, the ultimate, says Shield Stealer. I don't like the sound of that. It says the bugger activates a large magnet on top of its head and scurries around the battlefield, ripping all the shields away from the kinship and attaching them to itself. Take all kinship shields, I should say, and place them in the bugger's battle stack. Ignores max shields, and then kinship suffers stunned. Wow. So if you had a lot of individuals in the battle mat, this would be a really nasty one, as it could suck every single defensive chip off of them and then really make this thing annoying to take down. So the other condition that happens due to this is the stunned condition. So that is the opposite side of this blue one here. And you would get hit right here with cannot roll defense dice. So that's really not good also. So none of this is good. You don't really want to see any ultimates or specials triggering for any of the foes. Next up, we have the target deck. I'll go ahead and place this right here. We'll be drawing from this every single time the foes make an attack against us that result in a red pip on a die. We have to see whether or not their attack actually landed. The target deck will tell us this information. So without further ado, let's begin a battle. We're starting it off with Ash. All right, here we go, Ash. Let's see if we can put some serious pain on them right out of the gate. So I got two conditions I'm going to take advantage of in this very, very beginning round here. We've got focused. It says guaranteed special. This means regardless of what I roll on the attack dice, I'm guaranteed to get my special. My special is called a spinning blade. It's a +1 damage to one adjacent foe. So if I choose to target this right here, I can absolutely throw something against the cogbot. So that sounds pretty good to me. So this will be pretty easy to actually resolve. And this one right here, also accurate, reroll all misses at once. So again, anything where there is nothing in terms of pips for the attack, I can re-roll those. So that's going to be huge. Now I have to determine what dice I want to roll. I have an agility of 4, so I certainly have options. Just before I pick the dice that I want to use in my roll, I might as well talk about the other things I could do. Of course, I could use these thorn greaves to my advantage, and I can use them to my advantage when I'm actually hit. I can roll an attack die to the attacker, so that's quite nice. That could help me out quite a bit with that cogbot while I'm focusing maybe on the other one. I've also got these Watcher Blessings, which are certainly helpful, but I'm going to try my best to hold on to them for that last major threat that we know is coming down the line. It will likely be worse than what we're experiencing right here. So I'm going to do my best not to use those. That might be tempting. I may have to in order to make this a quick victory, but if things start going south, I may not have any choice. Now I've also got these 4 dice to spend, and I think I'm going to go crazy with attack dice out of the gates here, and probably also a defense die. So let's see how this goes. I'm going to go ahead and take 3 attack dice and 1 defense die, and we'll see how this roll goes down for me. Now remember, I do have rerolls available, so that is certainly going to be helpful. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to remove these and put them over here for now, so I have some space right in front to roll. All right, what did we get? Okay, so first off, we have a miss right here. We have 3 pips right here for 3 damage. That's pretty good. And we gained a shield, so that's not bad. Now, any misses that you roll when in a battle, you actually get to begin to charge up your overdrive ability, which is mentioned right here at the bottom. Overdrive for Ash is 3 damage distributed among any number of adjacent foes. That's pretty powerful, but we need to get from where we're currently at right now to 1 all the way up to a 6 to actually use it. So I just gained 1 already because of the miss I rolled. I do have the ability based on accurate here, which is a condition that states I can reroll all misses. You might think that I wouldn't gain that overdrive, but if you check the rule book for that particular token, it does state that any miss rolls before or after the reroll count towards increasing your overdrive. So I do actually get that in there before I go ahead and roll again. So I'm going to go ahead and make use of this wonderful condition that I have to try to land some more damage. All right, let's see if Ash can bring home the pain here with this miss. Oh, another miss. Wow. Okay, and it was kind of a cock die, but it is what it is, and it is a miss. So that's going to go up to 2. And here's where the temptation begins to seep in. See, I got these 2 Watcher Blessings, and I'm so tempted to keep them for later on. But if I use these right now, I could literally set these attack dice to any side I want. So this 1 pip, I could turn it to a 2 pip. And if I can find it, this one also has its special here, but I know I already have a guaranteed special from Focus, so there's no point in doing that. I'd rather have 2 pips if I can find it. Here it is. So a 1 pip to a 2 pip and a no pip to a 2 pip if I decided to actually spend both of these. And just like that, I would be 6 damage going into this, and 6 damage if I chose this to be my target. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 would wipe this guy right off the board, and then I'm simply going after the cogbot. The downside to this is I'm getting rid of some very powerful blessings that will likely help me against my final or major threat. So here's what I'm going to do, and this is going to help me, I think, because I know that next up in the initiative stack, based on what I'm done my turn, it will trigger this one right here. And this individual is going to be rolling against me 2 attack and 2 defense. You know, that's going to be really nasty. What I could do is I could spend the 1 shield Watcher's Blessing that I have to bump my shield up by 1 plus the defense plus that I get here. In other words, 1 from this token, which is off screen. If I spent this Watcher's Blessing, I can add a shield to my stack, plus when I resolve this die, would give me another shield. I'd have 3 shields, which is the maximum I could have on my character, and I'd be raring to go for a future round and to stay alive that much longer. And then I could hold on to my wild dice for a future fight. I'm kind of leaning towards that. And I'm also really leaning towards just wiping this individual right off the board, and I'm so tempted by that, but I really don't want to go down that route if I don't have to just yet. So what I'm going to do now is resolve the dice, and then likely at the end of this I'll probably bump up my shields. And just to ensure there's no confusion in terms of the different steps on your turn in battle, the first step is rolling the dice, the second step is determining your target, and the third step is resolving your dice. So I've already rolled the dice, I've definitely determined my target is this one right here, and now we're going to resolve each of them in order. So how does step 3, resolving dice, break down? What do you do first? The first thing you do is your overdrive, which I already did. For every miss that I got, I uptick that overdrive. We are now at level 2 on our way to 6 to take advantage of that if it pans out. Next thing we check is skill dice. Did we roll any? I have one, but I didn't roll it because I didn't use my ability, which doesn't use or didn't trigger the use of the die, so I don't have anything to resolve there. Next, any explode dice or specials I'd resolve. I don't have any of those. So now we move to the attack dice, and then the shield, and then the Vaki. The Vaki are the yellow ones. I didn't use those either. So first off is the attack in red, and then next is the shields. So this is going to be really straightforward. Again, I got 1, 2, 3 on these dice. So that's going to have 1 shield be removed and 2 HP. Now, any specials would trigger that relate to attacking, and I know that based on my focus condition here, I have a guaranteed special, which states +1 damage to an adjacent foe, so the Cogbot is going to lose 1 of its defensive chips. And finally, we'll resolve the shield where I got a single pip, which means I'm going to add a shield to the bottom of my stack. So now that I have 2 here, I'm looking even better. So that is going to end this turn of battle. So at the end of my turn, when I have conditions on me, these are now removed, no longer have them. And any that I came into the battle with are resolved at the end of my turn, essentially meaning that they're discarded when they're done, if I don't take use of them either. So I'm going ahead now and I'm finished. If I happen to gain a condition thanks to any of these enemies, when they initiate next, it'll sit on my character's chip until the end of my next turn coming up, which is unfortunate for me. So we're going to go ahead now and we're going to move this chip over to the opposite side of the board. We do not move the round tracker yet until both of these chips come over, then that's considered 1 full round. So now, unfortunately, this individual that we just went ahead and hit oh so wonderfully is going to come back at us again. I could have killed it, but I wanted to hold on to those wild dice. All right, here we go. I really don't like the fact that this individual has 2 defense dice. That's really going to be a problem. These shields are going to become a pain, so hopefully he rolls blanks. Oh, he rolled blanks on both the shields. I spoken into existence, but what I didn't speak into existence was the 2 hits coming my way, plus the activation of his special. So as I'm the only target, I am going to be the target. There's no point in them determining a target for their second step after they've rolled the die. So now they're going to go right to the target deck and see whether or not they actually hit me with the pips that came at me. They did. They did hit me. That's really unfortunate. So they hit me for 2. So I'm going to lose both of my shields off the bottom of this. That's not good, but I had just enough to take that. So the special is now going to trigger for this wonderful creature, and it's a Dragline Repel. The Skinner produces a web-like substance to climb down, dropping onto the target with a well-positioned surprise attack. I suffer blind. So no more specials for me, and also targeting is going to be a little bit more fun. And with that, it's going to complete their initiative or activation. So we'll go ahead and flip that over. This chip's going to go to this side. That is the end of a round. These chips will stay here. We tick down the track, and we're going to be pulling 2 more chips from the bag. Let's see what the bottom one will be. They're going on the bottom. Please don't be them on the top. That would be really bad. Oh, good. Okay, we get to go and they get to go. I'm really scared for a round where they get to go twice. I really don't want to mess around here. I'm going to try to just go crazy again with a 3 attack dice and 1 defense die. Again, I can't choose my target this time after I roll, and I don't have all those wonderful benefits like I had the first time around. I do have a Watcher's Blessing for a shield, so if I don't get a shield off the die I'm planning to roll, I could just put one on automatically. That could be nice as a nice buffer for the pain that's probably coming. But if I can try to get rid of this individual, that would be great. So let's see how it goes. And then we'll have to deal with targeting after the roll. Now that was the kind of roll I needed the first time. That is an incredible roll. That is 5 damage and then the 1 shield. Wow. Alright, so here comes the fun. Because I am blind, yes, I am blind, I'm going to take my character chip now, and I'm going to be flipping this into the battle mat, and I'm going to be trying my hardest to ensure when I flip this that it lands as close to this individual as possible. Shouldn't be hard unless it rolls, which I have had happen in the past, and that can be kind of frustrating. So yeah, you could potentially sit here on the side and try to flip it from the side, because it looks like it'd be easier, but I can tell you right now, when flipping it from the side or that close, sometimes these chips, as I mentioned just now, they do roll, and when they start rolling they could end up anywhere, and it's all about what it's closest to, and it does have to land on the battle mat. So if you clear it completely, then you can go ahead and reflip it. So let's go ahead and see if I can make this happen. So he definitely wants to be taken out because I nailed him, and I still am technically closer to this, so even though I'm blind, I still was on target there. So we do get to target that massive hit against this enemy right here. This condition will be going away at the end of my turn. So for now, 5 damage is going to blast this creature right off the mat. So that was pretty awesome. And I am going to go ahead and buff myself up by 1 shield, which I'm quite happy about. So that's pretty good. The question is, do I want to bother bumping up another shield? Probably not, because I'm looking pretty good now. This condition is going to disappear as well, and I am quite happy with what just happened there. So now we're going to go ahead and remove this, and we're going to activate the Cogbot. Well, this is going to be a bucket of fun. Look at this thing. The defense value for the amount of dice it's going to roll is 5. That is ridiculous. It's like constantly trying to pad itself on defense and just cause me grief. So again, it can't go any higher unless, of course, the Shield Stealer triggers, which then it can add more than 3. But 3 is the highest that anyone can ever have on them, except, of course, unless there's an ability that breaks that. And that ultimate one is certainly one that can happen. So I don't want to basically buff myself up with too many shields, or it could come back to haunt me. Is essentially the strategy there. Okay, so yes, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there's enough shields here. So yes, 2 more shields up like this. So this thing is now sitting quite pretty. I'm going to need to do a pretty good hit in order to take it out now. Alright, so this one here is going to go away, and again, you'll notice I didn't pull a target card for that because there was no attack dice coming at me. This thing doesn't attack, it just sits there and basically causes me grief. It's just like a slow pain. But I'm going to get it. I'm going to get rid of this thing. I could see this being a serious problem with a whole bunch of other enemies involved as well, but because I made short work of the first one, I think we're going to be alright. So there is the first chip. And second chip. Wow, we've really nailed that every time. So it looks like Ash is going first here. So I'm probably going to throw everything at it attack-wise again. Again, I don't want to trigger anything to do with my special ability. One thing that I forgot about, though, guys, that I will mention right now is actually earlier on when I was attacked by the enemy that I took out, I was attacked once. I forgot that I could have rolled an attack against him. Now, it wouldn't have killed him anyway, so it probably wouldn't have had any gameplay impact, but I should have remembered that because that could have helped me. It actually could have. I forget if I had 2 or 3 health left on him, so it might have resulted in a kill if it was 2, and I happened to roll an amazing roll like this. But hey, if you forget to use your ability, you don't get it. That's just how it works. So, now what are we going to do? We're going to try to hit this thing and hit it hard. So let's go with 3 attack dice again and 1 defense. Now what I could be doing here strategically is I could also be sitting here saying, I don't want to roll this defense die anymore because that's just silly. What if we get to this particular round up here and he goes ahead and he triggers that wonderful ability? And the other thing to note too is we've gone through 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're technically moving into this round right here. Yeah, and now looking at it with the round getting ever closer to the ultimate triggering for this cogbot, it'd be ridiculous of me to be bolstering the shields only to have them all sucked away and to make this thing even stronger, because remember that ultimate can pad its shield levels higher than maximum value, so that's terrifying. So again, I'm going to go ahead and change this out. We're going to use a Vaki die instead, so I can actually start gaining some Vaki out of this rather than focusing on the shields, because I still have one and I'm quite happy with that. Not going to do anything else. So here we go. Come on, attack dice, be good to me. Okay, so we did get a miss here, so I'll go ahead right away and just uptick my overdrive to 3. You guys know where that is and how that works now. We've got 3 hits here, and we got 1 Vaki success here. So the interesting thing is we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, do I really want it to hit its ultimate? Yeah, sorry, I'm not risking it. I don't know what's going to happen when we go into the next round. Like, what if, for instance, I go ahead and just do 3 pips worth of damage here right now? It'd be 1, 2, 3, get through the shields, and then all of a sudden the ultimate triggers, and not only that, before the ultimate would trigger in the next round, he'd still activate once. He would buff his shields up, most likely all the way up to 3. Then in the next round, when this moves to the ultimate position for the second last round, well, he's going to grab my shield from me on top of it, so that's going to be a pain, and it'll be even harder to hit. So I might want to just go ahead right now, based on how things are standing, without delaying things any further and making it tougher on myself. I might just have to suck it up and use a wild die right here. So this is going to be a Watcher's Blessing. We'll go ahead and we'll simply just uptick one of these to 2, like so. And that's going to be enough to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and that is going to be a KO of the cogbot. So we were able to take it out. So we KO'd everything here. Of course, I had to burn one of these, unfortunately. I didn't really want to do that. But at the same time, I don't want to draw this out forever. So that is going to work perfectly. And we never got to see the ultimate because, well, I never wanted it to happen. Now I also get to actually gain 1 Vaki thanks to the Vaki die that I did roll as well that had a single pip on it. We resolved that too. So I might as well work my way towards this right here. So I'm going to go ahead and take a tier 1. It has to be a tier 1. Take a sun. We'll add it up there. We're 1 away now from having that ability ready to go. So we certainly have to talk about the great victory that we just had, but first I'll go ahead and just do some cleanup here for the end of the battle. Obviously the round trackers reset. Your overdrive ability can stay put as it's going to be used as you go along through this game. Once I charge it up to a total of 6, basically when I roll one of those asterisks on the attack die, then I can use my overdrive ability, which is more powerful than my normal special ability, and then this cube actually disappears and eventually gets recharged again for future use. So it's constantly a cycle type thing. Another thing to note is when you're resetting your actual character, you're going to reset them back to what their HP level is after a battle, as well as if you have any items that give you shields, you're going to go ahead and get those as well. So I'm literally going back full capacity, and the great thing was during that battle we didn't lose anything. We did really well. So now let's go ahead and read all about what happens based on our victory. The Alouetta climb back up the canyon screaming something about unity, property, but you shrug and continue forward. You're not one to bask in the glory of someone else's defeat, but you feel strong. You haven't felt this powerful since, well, ever. You can't wait to regale the Petarukin of the Galeswood forest with the story of your thrilling battle in the Slot Canyon. Rewards we receive are for a foe KO, and of course all foes being KO'd. We get 14 XP, 5 tawny, and a +1 item loot chute. So 14 XP, we might as well just go ahead and set this to 4, and we'll give ourselves the bump up of a level here to 4. So we're working our way to our next agility bump up, but of course remember as the level is going up higher and higher, well, any more battles that we go into in the future are going to be that much more fun. And we gain 5 tawny, so we'll go ahead and grab 5 tawny. It's nice to have some money after a battle. So we got 5 right here, which I'll place next to Ash in case we run into anything we can potentially purchase, and now we get to do a loot chute as well. We also don't want to forget about the training point that we gain, because we got a tick up of 10 XP and then another 4 for a total of 14. Vaki Flare, that's what we got here for a loot chute. It says taunts foe to target you instead of ally. Gain +1 Vaki. You know what? I don't even want to shoot for this one because I have the greaves. I can only carry 1 item, and that is still better than this item, so I'm not even going to attempt to actually go for this. I'm just gonna let it go. And that's gonna conclude this part of the playthrough of Dawnshade as we make our way towards our major threat, just 3 tiles away, or if our threat goes from 12 to 16, we'll be seeing that individual early as well. So we're looking forward to likely the finale coming up. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, keep on rolling solo.